Welcome to Delightfully Dysfunctional, a podcast about navigating the emotions of the human condition and the challenges that come with it. I'm Kaylani Persian Mason, a psychotherapist and life coach with James Timmons, an ever-curious human. This is not a replacement for mental health therapy. Please seek out mental health care if that's what you're needing. This is an opportunity for self-healers to dive deep and understand more about themselves. Welcome back to Delightfully Dysfunctional. I'm Kaylani, and this is James. Oh man, he just did gun fingers for Styrol, kicking it off fast.
There's this episode of South Park where this is inappropriate. I'm going to say it anyway. There was an episode of South Park where they started a Christian band, and they would do that, and they called it Finger Bang.
Oh no, the name of the band?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Because they, and I was like, they're so clever. But
a Christian band.
so they took all they took love songs, and wherever somebody would say baby in a love song, they would say Jesus. And it worked.
Jesus one more time.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's really funny. Now I'm gonna try to. I feel like my brain is naturally gonna be inserting Jesus into songs.
That's hilarious.
Especially like R&B songs, that'd be really funny. Yeah. I hope that gift is disseminated amongst the delightful humans, and it's a practice they do too.
But the finger guns?
No, that they just replace baby with Jesus.
Or you could just say baby Jesus.
Baby Jesus.
So
funny.
Yeah, welcome back, delightful listeners, and welcome back, Kaylani.
Super duper. Thanks, man.
Today is August 2nd in real time, the time of recording. It won't be when you guys are listening. So yesterday we started our social media cleanse, but the thing I want to ask you about is a couple days ago, you had
my workshop, my intentional love workshop.
How was that?
It was great. I mean, I was so looking forward to it just in like preparing, but the day of is really fun, and I've been able to even connect with a few of the participants who attended, and they're still feeling like, which I would hope so. It's only been a few days, but that they're actually applying the tools, because that's the hope that you have. Not that it's just something that's done in this moment, but that you can take them and integrate them into your life. And so it was nice to get some mini updates too on that happening. And I think, especially for some of the men who attended, it was maybe some new concepts that they were practicing, just as like active listening and like turning towards your partner, and really the idea of these habits that we know relationship masters use and thrive in, and really making that a practice of your life versus what I think can happen in a lot of relationships is that like tallying or keeping score of who's doing what. So it was really lovely, because I think oftentimes we just don't even have the available space in our mind or time to have those conversations and to really reconnect. So anyways, blah, blah, blah. It was wonderful. I'm sure that I will do it again. I'm even hoping to create an online version of it. So I'm excited. I'm excited about the different possibilities, but it was fun, and it feels good also. I'm not going to lie. It was just been busy. So it feels like a little bit of a relief to be like, my August doesn't have a ton of busy stuff scheduled, knock on wood. But I'm ready to invite some fun into my life. I'm like, what can I do that would be fun? I'm trying to reconnect with some friends.
That's the theme. That's the key word in my life at this moment is simply fun. But yeah, what you said about applying tools, I immediately thought that I wonder if the men were able to apply their tool because of all of the
no comment. Oh my gosh. This is terrible.
Sorry, that's all I got out of everything you said. I was so distracted by
just
that
waiting
joke.
to
I'm
say that?
Well, I'm going to wait for her to stop talking, and I'm going to say this joke.
Oh no.
I'm just kidding. No.
You see what I have to deal with? My eyes hurt from rolling back in my head.
You know, when I was a kid, I was told that you roll your eyes back and somebody hits you in the back of the head, you'll get stuck that way. And we tried it, and it totally is true.
No, it's not.
I'm just kidding. It's not true.
I can totally like cross one eye and have one eye looking straight though.
Yeah?
Like, and the only Yeah, the only reason that I realized now we're like making
You got to look up so that everyone can see.
Is?
Yeah, there you go.
Like I saw in like silly pictures that I had taken when I was younger. I'm like, what the heck are my eyes doing?
I close my eyes intentionally when we take a group picture. I always go
intentionally,
and people go, "Oh, James, your eyes were closed." Like, "Oh, okay, let's try again."
Oh no!
I
don't
do it every
be
time.
that person. No.
And then we start laughing.
But I have like this. My eyes squint a lot when I smile. I feel like there was a while there where I was really trying to have my eyes open.
That's because we're Asian.
Yeah, the cheekbones, man.
I know, like
squish them up.
So, interesting fact about the month of August is that there only used to be 10 months in a year, and then stupid Julius Caesar and Augustine, Caesar Augustine, they were like, we want to immortalize our names, so let's create the month of July and the month of August. And then it's like, so then if you look at the structure, like September, the word sept means 7, October, means 8, Nov means 10. Oh. And so
Deca.
Yeah.
10. Yeah.
Or no, nueve, it means 9. It means 9. I'm sorry, like nueve. So, and then, December, Deca, exactly, 10. But the stupid, like that would have made perfect sense. We had 10 months.
Oh, wow.
And they just ruined it because they're such egomaniacs. I say we should cancel July and August.
What is that? What?
Yeah, because like that's such
madness.
Some two dudes just had supreme power and just ruined the whole calendar.
If you want to cancel the things that men in supreme power have done to society, I think their list is going to be a lot longer than July and August.
Most of things that men do in supreme power are good, but those were two exceptions. Just kidding. You're like, well, let's go through history.
Let's start with day
Pretty much all the atrocities that have ever been done to humankind.
I don't think that all every contribution from man has been negative.
Well, with the supreme power,
with supreme power with any human. I just
Hitler.
don't think that.
Yeah.
I don't know that that's a healthy mindset for a human, or that one's ego can handle it. But
I agree.
But here, civilization has somehow survived. So yes,
because they are resilient.
Yes.
So anyway, on a brighter note, what are we talking about today?
We're going to be talking about having goals for your life purpose.
Of how to rule the world with supreme power.
Oh no. There's all these steps that you take, man, where I'm like, yeah, James is getting it. Look at him. Look at him living his best life. Look at him growing up, little James. There he is. And then you say stuff like that. And I'm like, I don't know.
Well, so it's really like I have to stay humble because, I'm growing, I'm emerging and evolving, but then it comes to a point where I go a little too far into tyrant dictator mode, and
it's just under the surface.
Just pull it back,
hiding under the surface.
Yeah, just pull it back a little bit. Not so much tyrant dictator, more best life.
Oh wow, it's a slippery slope, huh?
Because I wonder how much self-work Hitler did before he was the brutal dictator of Germany.
How much self-work he did.
Like he probably had to be in a really good mental. I'm just kidding. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Oh my gosh, I was like,
my jokes are taking a dark turn.
Yeah, do explain, sir. Yeah, I was lost. Okay, so goal setting and creating the vision of your life. I'm hoping the vision for your life is not becoming a ruthless dictator, but that's really up to you. I don't have full control over the goals that you're setting for yourself. But let's pretend that it is something
healthy.
Something healthy. Let's imagine that it could be something that's going to benefit society and the world or people in general. Can you wrap your head around that?
I'm tracking.
Give you a moment.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. I'm back to humble James.
I think that this can be an area where people can sometimes feel frustrated, and maybe it's because I work with a lot of young people or people who are kind of transitioning into adulthood too. Mm-hmm. But it's like, oh, I'm not good at anything, or I like, I just don't know what my passion is. And it can really discourage them.
Yeah.
And I don't think that there is some magic age, especially in youth, when one finds their passion. I think there are some lucky few people who do, but that's not everybody.
Yeah. Well, like, do you have any like practices or exercises that you like have young people try to sort of unearth their calling or their passion or something?
Yeah, well, and not just with young people, but I think it's good to envision, like, what is your best life? And a lot of us think and have a kind of, well, someday I'll do that, or, someday this is the person I'll be.
Yeah.
And I really want to hear the details of that. Like, what habits does that person have? And maybe questions or reflections that you haven't even thought about. Like, well, who are the people that person's hanging out with?
Yeah.
And what are the things that they do for fun? What are the things that they do when it comes to their passion? Like, how do they incorporate that in?
Yeah.
Like, I have ideas of what that looks like that aren't yet the person that I am and I'm trying to incorporate, but you have to sit with it. It doesn't just magically plop in your head. You might have to marinate a little bit about, like, oh, what do I like, or what do I want to try?
Yeah.
Which means getting out of your comfort zone. Because if you haven't found inspiration from the things that you're interacting in with your life right now, it shouldn't be a message that inspiration isn't there for you or that it's off limits to you.
Yeah.
It should be a message that perhaps you need to get out of your comfort zone to find it.
Yeah.
And it's often in new settings when you discover something new about yourself. I can think about several times in my life where I was surprised by the direction or the opportunity that came from a circumstance that, I took the chance on. It doesn't mean that I knew. There was no guarantee. There wasn't a paper that I signed that said, do this and you'll find your passion, Kehlani. Good luck on your journey.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there was a exercise that I actually heard from the movie Office Space that it was back then, if you had $1 million, what would you do? And that answer for me has changed so many times, and I realized, and now I've amended it to if you had $1 billion, because you can't really do it. But yeah, so because I remember long, 25 years ago when that movie came out, my answer would have been, I'll buy a Lamborghini and I'll, all this stuff, and then like, 5 years ago, my answer wasn't that much different from that. It was a different type of car, but it was still like a status car, and all that stuff. So, and I realized that it was because my identity was so influenced, my passions were so influenced by like how I could project out to others, that I didn't really have an answer that would have been like from the position of like stripping away all that.
Yeah. No, and that is the ego. The ego wants to prove themselves or be right, or like status, is obsessed with status and ranking, whether good or bad, to be honest. It's the part that's also saying like you're a piece of crap sometimes. But that was a really good observation. Like, and I noticed that with conversations that I have, I guess, where that is a real difficulty, which it gets to like some existential questions to me of like, well, what is life really about? What's really important in life? Like stripping away that material layer. What are we really here for? And again, I've said this before in other episodes, but I think it's a question that I ask myself almost every day. Like, when I'm old, will this matter? When I'm at that point in my life? And perhaps it's actually on my mind a bit more because my grandparents are aging and my parents are aging. I see, I'm getting updates about my grandma's health, which COVID it declined more rapidly. And so it's really disappointing because, and hard to accept, because the last time that I saw her is probably going to be a really big difference from the next time that I'm able to see her. Yeah. And it puts into perspective, I guess, like where you invest your time in the habits that you want to have, so that when it comes to longevity, you still feel a sense of purpose and meaning.
Yeah. Did you ever hear about that one? I think it was a Harvard study. It was like a 70-year study. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-mm.
Okay.
Well, maybe not yet. Keep talking.
Well, it was they tried to they took people from when they were like young all the way until they were elderly, and they would check in with them like once a week. There was like I want to say like 300 to 700 people involved in the study, and they kept figuring out. They would try to. The whole point was trying to figure out what gives people happiness. And they concluded at the very end, after 70 years, that it was human relationships, quality relationships. Yeah. And so, like, that is hard. That was hard data. I remember I was watching this whole thing, and so, and have you? And then, sorry, I'm connecting these dots kind of roughly, but have you watched the movie Onward, the Pixar movie?
Yes, but I was also distracted, so I should probably watch it again. But they want to bring their dad back.
They bring their dad and only his legs come out.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a big adventure. Well, and this might be a spoiler, but at the very end, the dad comes back for like just a 5 minutes or whatever. And the older brother who had to basically raise his little brother just got to give him a hug. And sorry, one second. Sorry, because I was reminded of my dad, but
my heart's with you. We haven't talked a lot about that loss that you experienced, and it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, well, so I mean, that was like to connect those two dots between like human relationships and like that one moment. Sorry, I need a moment.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. But
it's okay. Thanks for being human with us.
Yeah. So but yeah, that connection, that's all he needed to just like his dad to come back, give him a hug and say that he's proud of him or whatever, and that was that's like what
the power of that moment.
He carried it with him for the rest of his life.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, take a second. We need to get some tissues. I have our baby wipes. It's not as helpful.
No, I'll be all right. I just gotta stop talking about it.
It's okay.
It's good. Woo! Okay, need to breathe. Whew.
If we weren't doing the podcast where we would need, I want you to feel like you can talk through it.
Yeah.
I would be wanting you to sit with where some of those feelings, because it feels like maybe you haven't had a place to process them. And you don't have to do that today, but
what's funny is when I watched it, I wasn't all that emotional, and I texted my brother and was like, "Oh my gosh, don't watch Onward. It'll remind you of our dad." And he was like, "Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna watch it." But then, so like right now when I was describing it, it just hit me like way worse. No, but the human relationships are what contributes the most to quality of life, and just how impactful and powerful like that one example from Onward is. Just a hug from your dad. And gosh, here I go again. Okay, I mean, you're good. Sorry.
No, I want you like it's okay. I think it's uncomfortable when it's something that you maybe haven't like processed first before you're in this space. So I want to honor that and not push you. But yeah, when there's someone that you really care about, you would do anything for that one more moment.
Yeah.
And that is. And when you ask people who are elderly, I feel like we're talking about like reducing social media consumption, and here I'm like referencing, but there's those photos of like people in the nursing home holding signs of things that are important. None of them say like work a lot harder or get that Lambo.
Yeah.
That's not what brought them joy. And like an inevitable end we'll all have is either a health decline or a sudden ending.
Yeah.
But you can't take those items with you.
I hope I go on a blazing. What am I? Sorry, my brain just is fried.
We just send you on a boat like the Vikings, and then I'll
like Bilbo Baggins at the very end. Yeah, I'd love to go on a boat, a Mediterranean cruise.
Really? I heard that people like that living on a cruise is more affordable than some of the like assisted living places.
Oh,
and
really?
then they get like food and I mean, I need to now find an actual story of this. So this was like true hearsay. It was like someone who told me that. And I was like, that's wild.
Well, I mean, in my Uber days, I would pick up people who were working on those cruise ships, the river cruise ships.
Oh, yeah.
And they said that, and I would get a lot of them. And they would always talk about, the people, like the average age of the patrons on those ships is like 80.
Yeah.
And then I was like, well, how much does that cost? And they're like, oh, it's, for 1 week, it's like $800. And, which is not, but then and I was like, oh my gosh, I should try it. And they're like, no. Trust me, dude, you would be bored to death. It's like pinochle tournament.
I was going to say, there's a lot of pinochle and like bunko or something.
Yeah. But I mean, when I'm 80, I'm going
that
on
might
one
be
of
the
those.
vibe. Yeah.
I wonder what
I'm slowing down. So by 80, that's going to be the speed.
I wonder what our hobbies are going to be when we're elderly. It's going to be like
I've thought about the nursing homes, right? Because video games, if you haven't, that's going to be, there's people who that's been a consistent part of their lives, for years and years and years. So like, there's going to be video games. Is there going to be some virtual reality? Maybe like
that's going to be the next generation.
What is going to be happening in these nursing homes? I think it's going to be really interesting. Is there going to be like a selfie sticks and social media, like photo ops?
We're going to be posting our political views on Facebook. And,
oh my gosh.
And we're going to be the only ones left on Facebook. But
it's gonna be interesting. I used to work at the nursing home, and the most exciting thing when I was in high school, I worked at a nursing home, was when The Sound of Music was on, and that would be like, but every TV needed to have The Sound of Music. So what are we gonna be? Everyone's gonna be watching like
Dogg.
Jersey Shore, and Snoop Dogg, and I don't know, Desperate Housewives of wherever. I'm staying tuned. It's going to be interesting. I hope that my brain is with it enough that I can giggle at some of what I'm sure will happen. So we're going off on a really long tangent. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
I couldn't stop.
They got tears out of me. So that's, I hope you guys are recovering as well right now. I'm just kidding.
Well, I hope that someday we can talk a little bit more about your dad and the importance of that too.
Well, also, I mean, because I've tried to be so transparent and vulnerable that I'm surprised right now how I reeled back when the tears came. You know what I mean? I was like embarrassed. But that's probably just societal. Like, men aren't supposed to cry.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I was also, but kind of what we said, it did surprise you. So maybe it was just.
Yeah.
I feel like those can be moments that you kind of would like to be private before you are flushing them out in a more public setting.
Yeah.
So that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I think, the other piece is that it's good to be aware of maybe where you still notice the pressure to not cry as freely or be as vulnerable. But
which I don't cry ever.
But
kidding.
The thing is that I'm sure that there are a lot of our listeners who have lost a parent or maybe have even lost both parents. There's someone that I know who, like, before they were 35 had lost both parents. And I think that that's a hard place to understand, or maybe even to have other people in your peer group who get it. So you've probably been a bit of a lifeline just in saying that that's something that you feel that can be hard to navigate.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, and also to add to that, I think that's the first time I cried for my dad passing.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah. No, I'm not kidding.
Really, James?
So, like, that's why it was, like, such a surprise.
Wow. Like, when he passed it, was it something?
I remember I did cry, like, the next day, but mostly just because of how heavy all my life was, But no, that was like just specifically for him just now.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But so that's weird.
No, honestly, I feel really honored. I think that's really profound.
Oh.
Just like, I don't know, that also means that you felt safe with me.
Yeah.
To process that.
Which I definitely do.
But oh man, I feel like there's more there that I want to explore. But today's topic, but I mean, I don't know. I think that there's aspects of what you just experienced that can tie in. It's about like finding that passion, finding that kind of the direction you want to go in your life, and taking steps to get there. And sometimes it's looking at people who have passed in your life, and that realization of life being short or unpredictable that can really be a catalyst for you taking bigger strides. And I feel like I didn't know you when your father passed away. I know it hasn't. How long ago? It's been 2 years.
April of 22.
Oh wow. Yeah. Dude, it's so much more recent than I even realized. That's still fresh.
Well, that's like a year and a half.
That's still fresh.
Yeah.
To me, that would be.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, that was a while. I mean, it seems like a long time ago. A lot has happened.
That's a good point. Like your life looks a lot different in a year and a half. But it also, you took a lot of really big steps since that happened.
Yeah. Yeah, maybe, I don't know. Yeah, because I like I said last week, I felt like I arrived at inner healing. So maybe that was like okay, well now I can grieve that. I feel like stronger to grieve. I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah. Anyway, goal setting.
Don't push the vulnerability away, man.
Are we just gonna do an audible and talk about grieving?
We're gonna talk about grieving now. Just okay. So, I guess I'm tying in how those life experiences that we'll all have of someone that we care about passing away, or just understanding that we only have this life that we can make an impact on, and what we want to do with it. Those can be really highlighted. So yeah, what are your passions? How do you navigate that? I think you think about, what are some of the things that future me would be really grateful for? Or what are some ideas? Everyone already has typically some ideas of like, well, I've always wanted to do this, but I thought, and then they come up with their excuses. I thought I'm too old. I thought it's not the right time. I thought I don't have the right this or the that or whatever it is. And most of the excuses are crap. I mean, certainly you can't be like, well, I really want to be a brain surgeon at 80. Maybe that's not a possibility for you. Like, there's some logistical things, but usually it's a big lie, or it's based on like an insecurity and something that you told yourself when you were young. So if you need any help breaking those down, I think journaling through it, or finding a friend that you feel like you can be really open to talk with that, or someone who's already thriving in the direction that you're wanting to go and asking them questions. Those might be some good ways to lean into it.
Yeah.
How do you feel that you found a passion? Have you found a passion?
Yeah. So going back to that exercise of like what I would do with $1 billion, like today, my answer would be more like I would create, visual art, or what, like videos, and like I would go travel, and and my circle of people would be very exclusive, and I would probably like disappear from the public eye, and so, but then I don't. That's still like a new thought, so I have to like really chew on that for a while. But goal setting, like in my recent life, I've learned that like nothing is really, or most things are not accomplishable. Is that a word? Unless you like really visualize what you want, and then like the path to get there. So like manifestation, you know what I mean? And like I heard this one podcast by Mel Robbins where she talks about what manifestation actually is, because you hear the word manifestation, there's all this like like woo woo kind of
like a metaphysical.
Like if you speak it into existence, then eventually the universe will give it to you. Yeah. And it's like, well, no, I mean, no. I mean, maybe sometimes, but very rarely. And so she was like, no, here's what you do is you look at yourself, that you've accomplished your goal, and then like you write down like all the characteristics of like does it look like, and then you start imagining like and she uses example of like running let's say your goal is to finish the Boston Marathon, and she says don't only visualize yourself crossing the finish line, like don't but she said what I want you to imagine is when it's rainy and bad weather out and it's 6 a.m, you absolutely do not feel like running. I want you to imagine yourself getting out of bed, putting on your shoes and running anyway. And then because it's like those little incremental small steps that you have to fight against your feelings to do, those are what's going to push you toward your goals, not the feeling of the finish line. Because honestly, if you cross that finish line, it doesn't feel good. It's just, I mean, it's like, okay, great, I accomplished that. You can have a small little celebration. Awesome. But I mean, 99.999% of what got you across that finish line was what you were doing the year before, and all the seeds you'd planted and the grinding and the never giving up. So the manifestation is that mental rehearsal of like, I know I expect the setbacks and I expect the pain, but I'm going to fight through and because I've already rehearsed this in my brain. You know what I mean?
I think it's taking joy in the journey, and maybe in that example too, like feeling really good about the discipline that you can create.
Yeah.
Or really like truly having a love of running to the point that like you like that's such a motivator that it doesn't matter if it's raining, or that maybe like running in the rain, it just feels like, oh, a different little new flavor of running or something new to experience. And I guess that is a big piece of the mindset that I've taken to the podcast is like, okay, I try to be really aware of the things that I can tweak or improve in my delivery or in kind of the background behind the scenes type of things. And it has really maintained a level of fun and joy.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. But then there's also, it's worth mentioning, like when people say like to love the process, and I think we've talked about this before, where that's sort of misleading, because if because in my own experience, when I tried to love a process, I would never get that feeling of love, and I would give up and think, oh, well, that's, if I don't love the process, it must mean that this is like the wrong path. But I really feel like it's not so much like you're probably never going to love a process, because you're going to love the results of a process, but the more accurate thing is accept that there is a process, and like embrace the process. Because because anything worth accomplishing is usually going to be a long, hard fight, and like 1 inch at a time, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, uphill, like pushing a car uphill.
I think it's a bit of both. Is that a fair?
Yeah.
And also, I mean, there's a couple different ways to motivate yourself, and there's like one way is to kind of just really mental drill sergeant your way through it. And I think that there's a time and a place for that. There's certainly things that you need to do in life, like cleaning your house or whatever it might be, that aren't like fun, and you have to just force yourself to do it. You'll feel better when it's done. You just have to get it done, kind of a thing. I think I've also worked with people who have only known that and have never feel the satisfaction of the process, or even the satisfaction of the accomplishment. So this is probably a discussion where we're discussing some different types of mindsets or different ways to navigate it, and it's like a choose your own adventure, like which idea or phrasing is going to help you, because everyone's kind of coming from some different motivational places for why they want to do something. But maintaining the fun or being a part of the process, noticing that there's a place for that, like getting to an expert status or reaching some magical goal isn't going to happen overnight. And that acceptance, I do like what you say about that, because I think there's a lot of belief, especially when people are young, about like, I want this to happen and I want that to be immediate. I want to feel the excitement of having reached this goal now. And the idea of persistence or it taking time is unappealing. And it's like, well, too bad. You actually got a lot of time here on this earth. So might as well use it towards goals that you have instead of being aimless or even, doing and making decisions or having habits that move you backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, so the two big long processes that I'm currently on, but I'm in a good spot now, are my inner healing and my business success. And so, so I'm kind of borrowing just my observations from those two. But I was just thinking right now, like how that can be applied toward relationships, because an unfortunate thought that a lot of people have is that when they don't feel like the fire of love in their relationship, then they think that like it's all over, that they don't love the person anymore. But then if you realize that in most cases, anything monumental is that really slow process. The joy comes from like how far you've traveled down a path and looking back and seeing how far you've come. And those are like the little celebrations. But then, and so I feel like a relationship can fit in that because, and then just the satisfaction and the peace of knowing like how far you guys have come. I don't know. There should be like that's a victory. That's an accomplishment. I don't know. Is that making any sense?
Well, the satisfaction of falling out of love. Well, I mean, I think that you have to, especially in long relationships, you have to be intentional about trying to seek out the things that you appreciate about your partner and to cultivate a whole culture within your home and within your marriage of appreciation. And of...
Sorry, I'm turning this off. Go ahead.
What a faux pas, James. My goodness. His phone's buzzing.
I don't know what the word faux pas means.
Mr. Popular? It just means like a social no-no, I guess. Yeah. But anyways, I'm just poking fun at you. Like having a relationship, it does take being really intentional about that and trying to hold your partner in a positive mindset or practicing turning towards them, which can be things that don't feel really natural. In fact, in my training, that was an observation someone said, it doesn't really feel very natural. It's not going to feel natural if that isn't what you've been doing. And if the habits that you've been doing are more critical of your partner or there's a lot of defensiveness, like you're not going to get to that point of really appreciating them, liking them, cultivating that sense of closeness, which is where feelings of real like love and connection sprout. That intimacy of like, oh, now I was able to share something and they really held it with care. And that is a piece of what grows intimacy, not just things that happen in the bedroom. Like I think we can use the term intimacy and it applies only to the bedroom. And I think that there's a lot of intimacy that needs to be happening throughout one's relationship that's completely PG and is just about like being nice to your person and remembering that you like them.
Yeah. And that's so crazy how normal it is in relationships these days to like just treat your partner with like disdain, and where it feels foreign when you are nice to them.
Right.
But I think, from what I've learned about like mental ruts and pathways, like if it's so familiar to like not be nice to your partner, well, that's just, that's a mental pathway. So you have to lean into creating a new one and know, there's a process in that. Like first day, it's going to be hard. It's going to feel unnatural and foreign. Second day, probably still be hard, but a little bit easier.
Trying to look at just like what are the things that I can improve on and take ownership for, rather than tracking or plotting what your partner is doing.
Yeah,
that's a tough habit to break out of, but that's an important one. So if you're wanting a healthier relationship, then come to the Intentional Love Workshop, and that's where you can set some goals. But when it comes to goal setting, like whether it's I'm wanting to have, I want my relationship to look this way. I'd like to make strides in this side project I have, or I've noticed
like
that
side piece.
a side piece, no. People know what I mean. Like, I feel like there's just a lot of people who have their job that makes money, and then their passion often
Side
is
hustle,
like, hopefully their passion is not their side piece, and their passion is their like a side project.
Yeah.
That they're feel more excited by, whatever it might be. I think it's good to be specific. Like, what is it that I'm really wanting? What am I wanting to achieve? That's when you get that more mouth-watering, like visualizing, well, the best version of me is doing it like this, or I'd really like improvement here. Right now, something I'm trying to improve on is organization, overall organization, but we'll just start with like organizing my house. So then measurable. Your goal should include some specific criteria, because me just saying that doesn't really keep me accountable.
Yeah.
And honestly, the social media cleanse, I feel like it sparked me wanting to almost take on a lot of other things in the month of August and jumpstart some good habits. So now if I'm being more measurable, I could say, okay, well, I'd like to have better organization strategies in these specific rooms of my house. I'm going to start on the laundry room. Like, when the laundry room is organized, then I'll know that I've like reached that, versus like I just in general want to organize things. Is it achievable? Totally achievable. I'm giving a realistic time frame. Give a time frame of it, evaluate it. So SMARTER is an acronym for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound. You can evaluate your progress and then you readjust. So if something happens and maybe I don't meet my original timeline, then I can totally adjust and give myself some grace. But you should take some time to be really specific about what it is that you want. And if you have a realistic time frame, a lot of people, and me included in the past, have made mistakes when setting goals and thought like, I'm going to tackle this really big thing, and it's not realistic. I end up feeling really disappointed when I'm not able to reach that, when I'm not able to meet the expectation I set.
Yeah.
Have you ever set a goal that's too big?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and I've preached this a lot lately. Because I feel like when you're overly ambitious with a goal, it comes from like the energy of your motivation in that moment. But then you have to rely on that same level of motivation to push through it, because it's usually this huge thing. Oh my gosh, I feel right now confident that I can run 10 miles a day, and then your motivation in the next day is like, oh yeah, I'm in a lot of pain right now from the 10 miles yesterday. then you fail. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you have to go, okay, no, what I need to be on, like I've learned I need to be so honest about my discipline and like trusting myself, and like what am I most likely going to accomplish, and then say, okay, based on my discipline, how slowly or how quickly can I reach this goal? Because that's going to look like, let's say in business or something, or in the podcast. The podcast is a big, like a side hustle that we have that we've worked really hard on. It's,
the podcast is our side piece. To nurture it, pay attention to it.
Yeah,
I'm just joking.
Slide in its DMs. Because I remember at first we were making like one reel a day, and then after a while, it wasn't really. I was kind of like, okay, that's not really manageable, so let's do one every other day, and that seemed to be the proper fit. And now I'm kind of like, well, we're not getting many views, so let's we might have to. Well, it's actually sorry, that's a whole different topic. But so like, the way that we have approached this,
I mean, that you're gonna have to like evaluate your goal and adjust it. Like, there's gonna be things in life, you might get sick, so your goal of running is gonna have to be adjusted. Trying your best is going to ebb and flow depending on the circumstances of what's going on, what's on your plate, what your health looks like. So there should be a gentleness too, because again, I think that sometimes we can carry a lot of shame when we're not reaching our goal. Some other tips for goal setting that I really like are pairing your like an undesirable task maybe with something that's more desirable. If I'm wanting to be more organized and more on top of like just cleaning and household things because it's been busier for me. I'm going to pair a show I like with laundry, but I might only be listening to or watching that show while I'm doing laundry, pairing it together. I used to do this when I had a gym membership, and at the peak of when I would go the most was also my poorest because I told myself that you've invested in this gym membership, and so that has to be your entertainment. And so there were specific shows that I would only allow myself to watch when I went to the gym. And let me tell you, like, when you're poor and you got nothing else to do and you already like invested in that, I was going to the gym like every day. Like, that was the best shape I've ever been in. And apparently the secret to that for me is I got to be poor again, which isn't something I'm wanting. So unfortunately, this is a reality of my life I've had to accept. But that's another, like, just a quality or a habit that I think is important to track and to really marinate on your reason why. So sometimes if you haven't taken a step and you've been really thinking through it, there's a place and a time for that contemplation phase. You don't have to like shame yourself because you haven't developed the action steps or created the actual goals. Sometimes there's an information like gathering phase that's really relevant and important. But when you can really write them down and track them, that makes it more real too. And so easing into a goal, I think that that's a good way. Just starting to like remember that you like doing the thing. Like reading is another good example at the end of the day. Remembering, okay, I do like this, especially when we're transitioning into the social media challenge and I'm wanting to read more at night. I think a lot of listeners are probably going to replace their evening scrolling with something else that's more healthy. That's the hope of the challenge. So sometimes if it's just not something you've done in a while, you have to ease into it, and then it kind of takes on its own momentum.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the thing that I replaced my social media with last night was heavy drinking.
Oh, no.
Is that healthy, though? It's
healthy?
not social media.
It's not social media?
No, I'm kidding.
Now we have to do a different kind of detox for you.
That's true.
Man, I've been mentioning, I don't know. My daughter just doesn't like sleep, folks. That's just the reality of my life right now.
My kids don't like food. So between our
mine
two...
likes food, but doesn't like, Man, who knew you had to teach them so many things? I'm just kidding.
Well, yeah, why? It's crazy how, Priya, she just loves being awake. She just loves life.
She does. She's very exuberant about life.
She's like, yes, another day. Look, there's people. I love people.
But then she'll try to do that like 2 a.m. Not as cute.
Priya, it's great. All for it. But there's limits, there's boundaries.
Yeah, let's reel it in.
Yeah.
Reel it in. How about we experience that at 6 a.m. instead? So I feel like my evenings where I was wanting to have some better habits are just wasted away. But last night I did get some actual good sleep, and that was delightful. Like, you guys, I know, some of you have maybe dabbled with drugs. I don't need to know about it. Here's what I need to understand. Have you tried sleep? Because it's great. It's this new thing, and it's amazing.
But it's not a new thing. It's new for you. But people have been doing it for eons.
Well, I don't understand what you're complaining about. If you've got it, then your life is...
That's such a good point. Yeah. Well, yeah.
I'm joking. That was insensitive, but I hope you found the humor, because clearly we're not having an actual conversation back and forth.
I think every parent is laughing with you right now.
No, it's the game changer. And if our kid slept, I'd be like, sign me up. Let's have another one. But can I sign up for more extended time without getting proper sleep and 2 of them waking up? That's a rough thing to re-up for.
Well, remember how like badass the Navy SEALs sounded before you had kids? Like, they would train after sleep deprivation, and then you have kids and you're like, oh, big deal. You still sleep deprived, and you're single.
You sleepy
sleep deprived single
Navy
person.
SEAL.
Oh, and what did you get to do after your training? Did you get to go do whatever you wanted?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
You don't have to wake up and take care of someone.
And every Navy SEAL that trained their Navy SEALs and then had children later were probably like, yeah, that was hard, that Navy SEAL training, but this is next level. There's no rest.
There's no rest.
Like, I still got to sleep the following week. Now it's years of sleep deprivation.
Years. I know, it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie, but We got a full night's sleep last night. It felt amazing.
That's a victory worth celebrating.
It really is. Like, today's going to be a good day, I'll force it to be a good day.
It's recording day, so it's already a good day.
It is.
Do we have any advice?
We do.
So we're looking at, I think we've been going for 50 minutes.
We've been having a good old time. I have to find it.
I need advice. I have this weird infection. I'm just kidding.
Oh, no. Not one of those, please. Okay. Dear Kaylani and James.
Oh, we have one. Okay. Here we go. Okay, buckle up, listeners.
Okay. I hope this finds you well. Yada, yada, yada.
Get to the point.
Get to the good stuff. Before COVID, I had a close-knit circle of friends, and we had a lot of really wonderful times together. However, as lockdown and social distancing became a norm, our interaction shifted to more virtual spaces and sporadic text messages. And while I appreciate those efforts to stay connected, it really felt like something was missing. So now that restrictions have eased and life for the most part feels back to normal, I was really anticipating that a lot of the hangouts we'd established beforehand would click back into place. But a lot of the friends actually seem kind of distant or unresponsive, or have grown closer to other people during the pandemic, kind of leaving me feel more like an outsider. So I'm really noticing that I've been more lonely and even having some anxiety. I feel like I'm comparing what's going on in friendships that I was once close with. And it's become challenging to even feel comfortable initiating plans because there's a bit of fear of rejection or indifference. And I really yearn for the close connections that I once had with friends. I'm not sure what to do. I don't want to feel lonely, and I want to feel like I can reconnect with people. Please help. Oh. I think that this person isn't alone in that feeling. I feel like general social skills have lacked, and especially they didn't say how old they are, but I noticed especially, in developmental timeframes, again, your brain isn't fully developed until you're 25. So if you were under 25 when COVID happened, that means that there was a decent percentage of time when your brain was forming that didn't include social interaction, and we are social animals meant to socialize. Yeah. I know that those were concerns that people had when things were getting locked down. And here's the thing, I can be like taking proactive steps, and we still have to look at the consequences of those steps. So me feeling that way doesn't mean that I think there shouldn't have been protocol. Part of this podcast is being able to be curious enough to still look at areas that we might have been all for, but we need to be critical about the pros and cons of what happens from that consequence. And again, I don't think this person is alone in feeling that like shifting friendships during COVID, figuring out how to reconnect is feeling more difficult. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. Everything you just said. But yeah, like COVID really did a number on... the lockdowns, everything really did a number on so many human relationships. Like, I remember my church before COVID, I was like really active and plugged in. And then like the extended lockdowns and everything just really destroyed that whole community. And like, I never returned, and a lot of people didn't return. And then marriage is like, did you see like an uptick by chance? Like, so before COVID versus after COVID, did you see a lot more marriages fall apart? Or was it kind of the same?
I started doing the marriage counseling training and really getting into that during COVID.
Oh, okay.
So I don't have like a lot of before and after data, but when I think about just individuals that I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that COVID was a real test for people who were already struggling in their relationship. Yeah. And then now you're kind of faced with this person, stuck with this person, that could really highlight and inflame the four horsemen of contempt, defensiveness, criticism, and stonewalling. And I think that oftentimes it did if people didn't have the right tools. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, because, Yeah, I mean, from my perspective, it feels like everyone is getting divorced. But then, like you had alluded to way earlier in this episode, how like at my age, it's kind of like the age of divorce.
The age of divorce.
You're like, I went through divorce when I was 30. That's not as common as like you're 41. And which is it. I don't know. It's crazy.
I was a trailblazer.
Yeah, you were before
you're just following a trend,
I know.
James.
Well, I mean, I was like the first of a lot of my friends, but it's definitely crazy how common. What I should do is I should either get into counseling or become a divorce lawyer, because those are some lucrative careers right now. Sorry, we're not. We'll talk about me
again. You're just going back to making bank. Let me make bank off of some failed relationships. Yeah.
Oh, I do that already. I'm a realtor. I sell a lot of houses up from divorce. But
getting back to the advice that we're giving. Oh my goodness, off on it. So sorry, person.
I'm sorry. I'm a hot mess today.
I had to reel you back in. Yeah, he's gonna start crying soon. No, I'm just joking.
Like, where are you gonna go again, wet head?
No, that sounded so mean. I'm like the counselor, and I'm like,
it's okay.
Okay, but this is my friend Hat, and I can tease him. Yeah, I think that this is a common thing that people are experiencing. I also personally, I don't feel like I have the same like bandwidth to be as social. Like that's something that I've observed. Like I don't want to do things every night. There are some creature comforts that I've enjoyed from COVID too. There were some gifts of COVID that were nice, but that is disappointing for this person if they're feeling isolated and lonely. I think that there are some really cool opportunities though to put yourself out there and get out of your comfort zone. When you think about what are the different things you might want to cultivate and try. Like I've seen like taekwondo classes or jujitsu classes, or I've seen art classes
or CrossFit.
I'm trying to actually have a more open mind to CrossFit. I had a conversation with a friend about it.
Like, are you gonna go?
No, I don't. I gotta sleep first. I don't know how you think that's supposed to happen without sleep.
I don't.
Step one is sleep.
Well, I mean, you'd sleep better if you like exhausted your body in the day.
I promise you that's already happening.
Sorry. No, sorry. You got me all excited.
Yeah, you got all excited. But yeah, for this person, if they're wanting to have some better workout habits, I do think that CrossFit, and I know it depends a lot on each individual one, but test it out and just being able to see, is this a healthy community for me? And have that question, not just when it comes to CrossFit, but any kind of community group that you might join, if it's a yoga community or whatever it may be. There's a lot of people like those organizations or those groups are primed to create connection.
Absolutely.
And I think that that's where I've seen a lot of people lean into post-COVID more than they did before.
Yeah. Yeah. And like the thing, because I experienced a lot of loneliness in recent years. And the thing that I kept coming back to was that I was just going to be patient. Like the right people will come as long as I'm intentional about building my life the way that I want it. Because if somebody had come, if people came when I was like desperate for it and like trying to force it, they would have influenced me. It would have derailed my progress. I would have like been like, okay, I'm happy here. I'm not going to really worry all that much about, creating the best version of my life. But it was like, well, no, nobody came. So then I kept on, progressing and trying to, and I learned a lot of patience and resilience in that process. So then as hard as it is, there is that silver lining where you're going to grow a lot more picky of the people you surround yourself with.
Yeah, that's another good point.
Yeah, and more resilient and patient.
Yeah, it's a combination. It's good to be selective if you are looking for the right healthy habits or healthy characteristics in a friend. And so I just want to say that I'm sorry to this person too, because it's really hard when you are reaching out to someone or you even feel like you're the only one reaching out and it's not reciprocated.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel great. And and I'm sorry about that. I find that I struggle because of just finding the time and coordinating with someone else's schedule.
Yeah.
Like everyone is busy, and that makes it more difficult too. But if possible, to find a friend group or a community group that is meeting more regularly and it's easier to schedule around. I would even say if this person feels comfortable with an online group, sometimes that's a good starting point. But don't let past friends who aren't meeting you where you're at or have the availability, don't take that on as a sign that you aren't someone who's worth spending time with, or that you're not important, or take it on as a rejection. Because I find that most of the time it's really like, maybe their baby's not sleeping through the night. They forgot. Maybe they are really busy with a certain work thing. Maybe there's family stuff going on and they're overwhelmed. Most of the time we take things on as really personal, and we don't have enough information to draw that conclusion. So I wouldn't want that to be a wall or a barrier that stops this person from being curious about other friendships, because I think that that's a piece of this post-COVID landscape that I notice is like a real ability to make quicker assumptions and be more fearful about rejection when it comes to friends' interactions, instead of like, well, did you ask? Did you ask them what was going on in their life, or feel it out? So don't make those assumptions or believe that it's something that's your fault.
That's such a good point. Like, don't project, because that's it's referred to in some places as psychic thinking, where you're
you
like,
can mind read.
Yeah, you're trying. Yeah, exactly.
Fortune
Or it's
tell.
like you don't have those powers, so
You don't.
Don't create a narrative in your head and then live in response to that narrative. Like, we're grown-ups. It's our responsibility to express our feelings and lean in, reach out. As hard as that is, unfortunately, it does fall on us. So also, like, maybe they're not hanging out with you because you don't CrossFit. So.
Oh my gosh. I mean, this is another piece of feedback I do want to squeeze in. It has nothing to do with CrossFit, so don't look excited.
Okay,
it has nothing to do with CrossFit. God. I mean, I'm oftentimes saying, find the healthy people and lean into that. But here's the other piece that's important. There will be people in your life that give you feedback that's uncomfortable, and that doesn't mean that it is an unhealthy person. Sometimes you have to look at what someone is saying to you, and you should really take it into account and evaluate and kind of decide how that fits with you. I would not want any negative feedback one experiences to be thought of or be put in the category of like, oh, that's a toxic person because they told me something negative.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and I mean, honestly, like oftentimes I would want you, if you heard this certain feedback, several other instances, reflect. Like, we're not perfect and we're here to learn, and it's often in those examples or situations that you're given an opportunity to reflect and to make a shift, an intentional shift, and being wrong or not doing something that maybe hurt someone's feelings or wasn't as considerate, or some kind of habit. Certainly it doesn't feel good, and it's easy for defenses to come up, but I want to normalize for you that's a normal process of being human. And if you're on the path of being curious, please be curious about the ways that perhaps you can improve to the benefit of the people around you too. Like, it's not just about what makes you happy and pursuing that. We are in community with other people, and there are times when it's appropriate and needed for you to self-reflect on, wow, perhaps I haven't been in the right, or perhaps I need to step up in this way or that way to improve friendships. Perhaps my projection is creating a wall. I think that a lot of times I might phrase things in the way of, being able to say goodbye to certain relationships that are unhealthy. Unhealthy is not the same thing as just being given uncomfortable news. And I wanted to make a distinction between that.
Yeah. No, that's all so good.
You're getting sleepy, James. I'm going to get this guy some caffeine. We're going to turn the AC on.
Coke Zero.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, delightful humans, curious humans, for listening, for reflecting on, I feel like this is disorganized, but like delightfully so. I actually really liked it. It was a little bit of goal setting, but it was also a bit about grief and a bit about friendship. So I hope that there was something in there that you connected with and resonated with. Please write to us if there is something that you're wanting advice on. I'm coming from more of like just Kaylani the human. It's not a replacement for therapy, but we'd love to be able to give you some heartfelt and thoughtful advice. Also, like, subscribe, and share if there's any other friends you know who would like to join the Delightful Human community, and if you feel like this is content that they would benefit from or enjoy, please share it with them. We appreciate that so much.
Yeah.
Join us next time.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.